This tree displays incredible resilience. Its soft trunk can be hollowed from the inside to create a water reservoir without causing harm to the tree. Over 6 months, the tree regrows its bark in the inner part, making it waterproof. This results in a living well or a living barrel. Digging up a baobab takes more than 2 weeks and should only be done during the dry season. The right time for digging and choosing the right baobab is crucial. Otherwise, it may rot and die. During the rainy season, all baobabs become waterlogged and should not be disturbed. The appearance of leaves also signals an unsuitable time for digging baobabs, known to everyone in the village, even children. There is a crucial rule to follow after digging up a baobab: wait for at least 6 months before filling it with water. Otherwise, it may lead to the tree's death. People fill the tree with water during the short rainy season. This living reservoir can store thousands of liters of water, and the baobab remains unaffected even after decades of use, an extraordinary phenomenon in the plant world. During an extended drought like this one, the tree has already withered. Nevertheless, the reservoir requires maintenance. The growing wood needs to be periodically cut, or the reservoir's volume will decrease. Despite the water quality declining over time, the villagers inherited 7 such baobabs from their ancestors. Only one still holds water, carefully conserved to last as long as possible. Bathing occurs once a month. Washing and cooking near the trees are prohibited to avoid the temptation of using more water than necessary. When water has to be carried hundreds of meters from the tree to homes, it's used more thoughtfully. After each rainy season, people collect water near the baobab and pour it inside the tree. The entire village works together, ensuring the baobab is filled before the water evaporates rapidly. Many old baobabs develop hollow centers on their own, providing homes not only for various animals but also for people. Hollow baobabs were used as stores, warehouses, burial vaults, and even as cafes. In South Africa, one very old baobab housed a bar until 2017, attracting numerous tourists. Unfortunately, the tree collapsed that year, destroying the bar. Legends suggest that hollow baobabs were used as temporary prisons on the way to the city or to temporarily house slaves. Baobab's ability to survive in deserts allowed various animal species and tens of thousands of people to inhabit these areas, often following the historical slave trade routes. But some trees face even harsher living conditions than any desert. Here's an exceptionally unusual scene: a tree growing amidst the sea. By all biological rules, the salty water should have long killed it, but it inexplicably thrives. This is the mangrove tree, flourishing and even flowering in saline waters. How is this possible? These trees possess a remarkable ability. During low tide, their roots, covered with wart-like growths and surrounded by pores, capture air in these growths. When water inundates the roots again, these growths start letting water into the plants, filtering out 99% of the salts. Residual salt accumulates in a few unnecessary leaves, which turn yellow and then shed. It's a genius solution. The extraordinary capabilities of mangrove trees have led to the formation of vast mangrove forests along ocean coastlines. It's hard to believe, but this entire forest submerges underwater daily during high tide and then dries out during low tide. In these locations, ocean water penetrates kilometers inland during high tide. Mangrove trees took millions of years of evolution to adapt to such conditions. No other trees in the world would survive here. This unusual forest creates extremely strange phenomena. Here's the Rhizophora mangrove tree. Its trunk doesn't reach the ground. Instead, it has a network of giant roots supporting the tree in soft, muddy soil. During high tide, numerous fish swim into the forest, but many of them are reluctant to make this journey every time. So, during low tide, they do something extraordinary. Within some roots and fallen trunks, tunnels are created by a special type of marine mollusk. When the water level drops, the fish swim into these openings. As the tide recedes, the roots and trunks of the trees end up on dry land, but the fish remain safe in the water-filled corridors inside the tree. Yes, there are trees inside which fish live. Phenomenal, isn't it? But if you think life inside the tree is carefree, that's not the case. Several hours into low tide, the water inside the tree diminishes, prompting these fish to venture further into the labyrinth. However, even inside the tree, there are predators hunting these fish. It's a miniature octopus, patiently waiting. It's an experienced hunter, but luck isn't always on its side. While the fish try to evade the octopus in the darkness, the water inside the tree continues to deplete. All creatures dependent on the tide await its return. After a few hours, it finally happens. Water floods the mangrove forests and flows into the tunnels of the trunks. Tiny fish begin to stir. These resilient little fish endured 6 hours without water. They leave their safe labyrinths to feast on the microscopic plankton brought in by the seawater. In addition to fish and octopuses, mangrove trees are inhabited by shipworms. Not actual worms but a type of mollusk. They burrow tunnels with modified shells and grow up to a meter in length. Thanks to these creatures, fish swim into these trees. These worms have become a delicacy, and people venture into mangrove forests searching for trunks pierced by these creatures, then cut down the tree to extract the hiding mollusks. Some even eat them raw. Finding mangroves inhabited by shipworms is a challenging task, requiring experienced seekers. Sometimes hunters get lucky and stumble upon a real jackpot. The tree turns out to be teeming with worms, delighting the locals who immediately arrange a feast. When the tree is cut down, the worms instantly perish, as air is lethal to them. Before consumption, the head must be removed. Sometimes, within the trunks, they find true giants. It's impossible to swallow this one whole. It's a living sausage. There are deserts where the existence of any trees seems impossible in principle. For instance, if the desert consists of vast sand dunes, like the Taklamakan in northern China, it's a constantly shifting sandy landscape with extreme temperature variations, and most importantly, virtually no rainfall. Those with a rudimentary understanding might assert that trees cannot survive in such conditions. However, nature is ready to challenge that notion. Right on the dunes of the Taklamakan, you'll find the Euphrates poplar, and it's not alone. These trees not only survive but thrive in these conditions, some of them having endured for over 1,000 years. How do they manage to exist in such harsh circumstances? The secret lies in their remarkably long roots that gather water and connect neighboring trees into a shared network. So, if one tree gets water, others can benefit from it as well. But there are trees that choose a different survival strategy in the desert than the baobab. They lack broad trunks storing vast amounts of water, but they have something else. Here, in the Nasocoder Desert, on a distant island in the Arabian Sea, the dry season is harsh, yet this peculiar tree can endure it. The key to its desert survival lies in its unusual shape, the dragon blood tree. These trees grow atop hills where the soil is poor, but there's a decent substitute. Rare morning dew covers the ground, droplets condense on the large, dense leaves, and the liquid flows towards the middle of the trunk and then to the roots. Water is too precious here to lose a single drop. However, the drops that fall to the ground aren't lost entirely. The sprawling, dense crown of the tree acts as an umbrella. Its shadows are sufficient for water to seep into the sand. Additionally, the crown provides shade to the roots lying near the surface. In this desert, another tree grows, resembling a miniature version of the baobab. It's the adenium. In its thick trunk, similar to the baobab, it stores plenty of water to survive until the rains come. The tree is so resilient that it grows on bare rocks,